we've ended up chatting a bit. But what I want to talk about today is how, and this is a very interesting actually with you, Gary, is about how when people are on a lot of tablets, medication, and if they start making mistakes with the medication. And we all know that there's some very clever little boxes that you can get.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen them. My dad used to have those.
Right. Okay. And so that it's all compartmentalized and everybody knows. However, it's like who does what, who's in control, and how can we suggest that to somebody living with dementia that actually, you know, the child, their grown up child or the person they're living with does it and not them. It's because mistakes can happen.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've known this to happen
Hmm.
yourself.
Yeah.
Um, whereby, say, you have somebody living with cancer who is on a certain drug, and then they're living with somebody else, and then they add in, they start accidentally taking other people's medications. Um, and then all sorts of difficulties can arise from that. Is that something that you've come across, Gary?
Not really, to be honest. I mean, I've come across it sort of with people like my dad and that in sort of care homes, but sometimes that's also mistakes from the care home staff.
Yeah, and there goes that as well. It's not for the drugs. That's why they have registered nurses doing it.
Yeah.
RNs. It's big stuff. Drugs is huge, and if you take the wrong thing, then you can get into all sorts of difficulties. A colleague of ours has just found out that his mother has been taking his um, dad's Parkinson's
Oh.
tablets. So it's in a bloodstream.
Mm.
So it's it's like how do we get across to somebody that they are, and it sounds awful, but basically they're no longer capable of sorting out their drugs for themselves because they're making mistakes.
Hmm.
So it's how do we get really caring about that, instead of being bullish and saying something like, you can't do this, you're not allowed to do it, you're making mistakes all the time, and people feeling diminished. Because
Mm.
remember, our whole idea is to bring somebody back and make them feel more empowered, more themselves. And it goes on the same lines of taking away their driving license, the car keys, the this. We have to get very clever indeed around it. And it could potentially be along the lines of, all these bottles are very fiddly, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. And so, do you know what, I'm just going to take that horrible job over, so that because as people get older, they can get a little bit,
Mm.
I can't take some lids off.
But you get the ones now where you have to squeeze them together before you twist them and all that
It's
sort
like,
of stuff.
oh my God. It's
Well, I
like,
found, and okay, I've not worked with dementia people like it, but I found generally sort of, with my dad and other people I know, and sort of my grandfather and people like that when he was about, I found that quite often, if you offer to do something like that, they quite welcome it because it's a chore that they haven't got to bother doing.
there you go. So we make it into so we call it horrible, we call it boring, we call it a horrible, as you say, a horrible job. And we go, oh, and they're so difficult, aren't they? So we make everything difficult so that they actually go, oh yeah, you do it.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly what we do. And then it's like, and then you go ahead and do it, and you've been able to set it up all right. But that's exactly what we do. It's a bit like with the whole driving thing as well, of, oh, it's so horrible and busy on the roads now, isn't it? I'm sure you'd much rather be a passenger and just get to look at all the scenery and
Mm.
what's going on. And I'll do all the busy stuff. you know, with the
Mm.
roads, because you make it so that actually it's so much that they get the nice end of the stick. So
Mm.
that's exactly what we do. Yeah, definitely. And then so I mean, do you deal with drugs and things on your side of
No,
things with oncology? You
no,
don't.
no, not at all.
No, no, and I don't. With it's just to help the caregiver when they have these issues. Well, how the or the care partner, how do we say this in the right way so
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
people,
I
so
mean, the
we
only
just get
ones
very
I tend,
clever.
I mean, mostly with me, if they're on sort of various types of cancer drugs, whether immunotherapy or other things or targeted drugs, they would tend to have those at home. So I don't see that side of it at all. You know, the nearest I get to it is obviously they come in for chemotherapy, you know,
Yeah,
that sort of thing. So,
yeah. So again, we've got there's something else that is quite interesting to think about is for us to get curious with our people living with dementia. So if they suddenly start making up stories, and they may not be making them up to themselves, but it sounds like stories like, oh, somebody came in and stole my rings. That can be very common. Somebody
mm,
came in and stole my clothes. Somebody came in and took my hairbrush. Somebody, or there's people are taking my things. So we don't. So again, as as this is what we would guide our clients with if they're living with this
mm,
constant, like, oh, they're telling stories, instead of saying, because so often they go, no, they're not doing that, they're just doing this, they're just taking, it's just, yeah, sit with them, tell me
mm.
more.
Yeah. Sometimes they might be right though. I mean, I did a classic one of that. My grandmother, no, both my grandmothers had dementia or something similar. I mean, my first one, I don't know, really know. Well, it had to be dementia because she ended up not recognizing her husband and anybody. She died when I was about 6, so I don't remember much about it. But my other grandmother had it and ended up in a home. Yeah, same thing, didn't recognize people and stuff. But before she got into the home, she sort of come up with things like that. And I remember one particular sort of day when she was still living sort of on her own at home. Sort of her daughter going round and she said, "Oh, I've lost my purse and something," and she was looking round for it, for her, and she said, "Oh, I might have left it at the post office." And her daughter saying, "No, no, you haven't, because you don't go out. You haven't left it at the post because you don't go out anywhere." And she, "Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yes, I went to the post office. I might have left it at the post office." And she was like, "No, no, no, you don't go out. You don't go out." And they couldn't find it anywhere, and just thought, oh, to keep her quiet, she'd go and check at the post office. And yes, that's where it was because she had wandered up to the post office.
There you go. And she did remember, and she was walking with purpose to the post office.
Yeah,
So, and that's a classic story of actually saying to somebody, tell me more,
yeah,
and what were you doing up at the post office?
yeah.
There you go. Because you're right, people will always go, no, 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 you're not. You weren't, you won't. There's no, or that, if they're hallucinating, there's nobody there.
Mm,
And it's like, yeah. So yet to them there are people there.
yeah.
And to them, they have gone somewhere, or to them, somebody has taken such and such. Um, and but if we just stop and do that whole thing of, oh, sit down, tell me more. And then she might have gone on and said about her trip to the post office.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it's
I
funny.
think
I would
that's
say, no,
brilliant.
you never go out. You don't go anywhere. You don't go out. You haven't been to the post office. And yeah, she had.
Yeah, I know. There you go. But isn't that interesting? Telling somebody what they do or don't do. No,
Yeah.
it's really quite fascinating. Um, so yeah, it's about just sitting. Tell me more about that. That thing that's gone,
Mm,
and then they may go, oh yeah. And it's just like it may come, it may go, or go, I didn't like it anyway. and they may come that actually years before they'd given it away, but suddenly they got fixated on it because they seem to have remembered it for some reason, for some other reason.
Mm.
Who knows why? Maybe it was somebody's birthday and they'd been given it by them. Maybe, but we don't know what goes on inside the brain for people. But that's why we sit and we get curious. So we always have to sit with somebody. Tell me more. And now that is easier said than done when there is lack of time. Lack of time, I think, is what most people struggle with.
Mm.
And is what makes people irritable and frustrated with people. And that the whole thing of when there's more anxiety and more anxiousness, and people getting more irritable around that, I think that can lead to even greater fear, more anxiety, and then it can even look as though people have neurocognitive disorders when they don't. When they don't. They just looks as though they have, because they're just so anxious about, they've started telling themselves stories, gone down the rabbit holes, frightened at everybody, and just made everything negative, 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 negative. And they can't do that because of that. And then they can't do that. Well, that's going to happen. And then they can't, well, I can't do it. And they're like, literally everything that comes out of their mouth is negative.
Mm.
And then you know, if there's family members, they can actually start thinking, oh my gosh, where have they gone? They must have dementia.
Mm.
And it is literally just because of not people not getting curious enough. And as I said, doing those wonderful pattern interrupts that we can do on somebody's anxious feelings, to get to snap somebody out of it. So it's yeah, it's so always getting curious, observing, listening, you know,
Mm-hmm.
listening to what's going on, for that person. And yes, they may well be starting with dementia, but if people are so scared and so in that, we know what it's like. I don't know if you've had I mean, you recently had a lot going on, Gary,
Mm.
just before you went out to Hypnothoughts. You had a huge amount to sort of organize. You know, did you forget a few things here and there?
Oh, I don't think so. I tend to be frighteningly efficient.
But you could have done.
Yeah,
It was, you know, if there was going to be a time, it's when there's just more heaped on top of you.
yeah.
You know, you can just lose I mean, even if you forgot to have a meal, or you forgot to have a drink of water, or you forgot to do this, you forgot to, you know, look after you, do a bit of self-care, there's something that goes when you have too much, and there's too much worry, because of other stuff going on. Well, we're not in control of other people. um you know, just like the whole thing with your flights, that could have sent some people absolutely
Oh
crazy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That was irritating, but
Yeah, but the anxiety for some people, they wouldn't have even gone.
oh yeah, yeah.
I bet they just gave up,
Mm-hmm.
just not going. Um, so again, what can we do when people are missing things and they're saying that they've given them or they think somebody's stolen something, whereas actually they have given it away to somebody? So how can we help our clients? Well, this is what we can do. Take pictures of it.
Mm-hmm.
Take pictures. If there is an occasion and they are handing off jewelry, they're handing off a book, a chair, a picture, or whatever, it's to be take a photograph of them giving it to that somebody, and literally make a note somewhere, and there could be a special book that is literally written down of all the times they've given people things or done things, and then they go, and then it's documented.
Yeah, it's all very well as long as you're there when they do it. You find that they would do things like that when you're not necessarily there.
And you're quite right. So then what do we do? Then it's like we get curious again.
Mm,
And we find out who's been, and then find out from them what the story is, and so forth. But yeah, you're right. What happens, say, if you've got they're in the house and they've given it to somebody who's been cleaning the house,
mm,
um and and yet the family might not like have wanted that to have been given to them.
mm,
That then is very difficult, I think. That, and that's where we get curious again, and I wouldn't want to be I wouldn't want to surmise what might happen there. Depends what it is. But
mm,
if they would have to have the conversation, I suppose, that, mummy or daddy have got dementia and I don't think they meant to give it to you. But yeah, you'd have to do that's a difficult one.
mm, mm,
Very difficult. And I expect there's been many things that have been given away like that.
oh yeah.
Many. And it's uh or they've been taken. I don't know. Not all the time,
Mm,
but we don't know. We don't know. We can only surmise on that. But it's about checking in and having those conversations already.
mm,
But that is something that you can do, is at least
yeah.
take the note down. We're not going to be in control of it all by any means. Um, so we have the other thing of um, we mentioned this last time about being aware of our family and our loved ones when they're out and about at a fair or a because we want to take people out.
Mm,
It's not to be locked in. It's and it's about having that piece of paper with you to say to somebody, if you're in a little store, my loved one is living with dementia. I appreciate your compassion and understanding, which goes to, I think I mentioned this last time, is if somebody walks out the door without paying for something, or
mm,
they suddenly go, oh, or they look lost, and the person behind the counter can go, they're just over there, looking at such and such, because people can suddenly go, why am I in this store? They'll just and only for a split second it needs to be,
mm,
but I mean, it can go on for longer, of course. Now, out of interest, if you were taking somebody out shopping, living with dementia, would we've got to choose our shops that you take them into,
mm,
because there are some that can cause a lot more fear than other ones. So, for instance, ones that are very noisy and busy, um, loads of music going on,
mm,
loads, it's just too much. If there is shadows, you know, so it's like we've got all these lovely, if you go to some nice little Italian bistros and things, or French bistros, they can be very dark and shadowy, and very romantic. Not great for somebody living with
mm,
dementia, because with the shadows can come fear quite often. So it's all that sort of thing about being aware and getting curious about what they like, and noticing that there will be some areas as we take people out that are more dementia friendly than others. Like an arcade,
mm,
that would just like not be helpful at all. Too much noise.
mhm, mm,
Um, but the little local English fair, that where they have, I don't know if they really do them here in America, They do. They must do them. They I haven't been to any. But like all the little crafts and things like that, and that would be very nice. But you'd have to wander around with them
Mm-hmm.
because you can get lost. Or give them something to wear that is very noticeable.
Well,
Um,
nowadays, give them a tracker.
or they, yes, well, there you go. People are doing that. You get the
Mm.
Apple trackers, don't
Yeah,
you?
yeah, I have those in my luggage, so you can put them in a coat pocket or
Yep. And then it's like, yeah, just put it around their neck, do
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. I
But
mean, you get things for pets with them now. You get, they use it for pets, and there's no real difference in some way. I use it for my luggage. I actually have one in the ashtray in my car, just in case I can't find it or it goes walkies. Um,
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I know, because if your car is black and a sedan, it looks like so many other black sedan
yeah.
cars. So you can't find it. Yeah, it's true. I've done that many a time. Oh, where did I park my car? um, yeah, I think that's a really good point. And one that people could suggest to their clients if that is if they're going out for the day to a big thing, just have that with you, have that on, because it was just another safety.
Mhm.
Because if you lose somebody, that's just horrible. I think they're doing it for children.
Probably. I mean, I
Uh,
know they do for pets, certainly over here.
mm, mm. So I think that's a really good idea. I like it. Or again, as I say, having them in something really bright so that you can see where they are, who they are. It's like, I'm not saying a great big tricorn hat or anything, but no. um, but yeah, just get them in a yellow dress or a whatever, just so that you can quickly see where they are. Um, and so yeah, I think that's sort of very helpful, and make everything playful. Then, like we said before, immediately make it oh yeah, that's like I'll take charge because it's such a horrible fiddly thing. But otherwise, make everything into more of a game if you can, and presuppositions. Once we've done this, then we can do that and have some fun. Once you've got washed, when you've done this, when you've done that, then we can go and I don't know, watch a nice film, choose a film, go for a drive, um, go to the post office. uh, it's and always see what they can do. I had a lady in the other day, and her mother, it was really sad. She thought her mother had dementia, and she didn't. It was simply because she was just so out of sorts since there'd been a flood in the apartment, and so she didn't have all of her belongings around her, and
Mm.
so the house didn't feel right. Everything's in boxes, and then it was like, well, what's the point of putting everything back up if you're going to move nearer us so we can help you more? Well, that could be another year. So everything's been in well, it's like that can cause a kind of unsafe feeling. You don't not in your surroundings. And then it's like all it takes is for a couple of people to also have a few horrible thing, say if they're your friends, say somebody's partner has got dementia, somebody's lost their partner, somebody else is doing this, somebody that you're used to, then all of a sudden all your friends that used to sit, that they're all having difficulties. And
mm,
it can make people go very insular. I feel as though they've lost a lot of people. And she was very much in fear and very, very, very negative about all sorts of stuff. And it was really sad. And it was like trying to get her back to her. Who are you? And then again, sometimes where people live has changed. So a lot of people love churches. They love the whole life is around a church, singing in a church, going to the church. However, sometimes people's over time, the environment changes. And this is what can happen to some people, is that they start to feel scared in their own environment, where they used to be able to, say, go to church and wander back home late at night. They can't anymore because the area is now changed and it's
mm.
dangerous. So again, that's why we have to get curious about why people are staying in and not going out. But it's that's why we always do tell me more around everything, even with the care partners. It's like, well, tell me more about the behavior, tell me more, and what can we do? And that's why sometimes moving them nearer, a loved one nearer, is a good idea. However, moving can also cause its own problems by the nature of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because people don't like to move. They don't want to be out of their environment. They feel scared. They feel worried. Well, I'll never find a church the same, especially if they've had that for very long time, and that's all they've known. So that we get fear again. We get fear. It's it can be it's a big struggle for people. Big struggle for people. So what can we do? That's where we have to come in. What can we do? So we're thinking about all the issues, all the problems. What can we do to help people feel more safe and secure around moving? What do you think we can do?
Well, I think that's a difficult one anyway, because I'd have said, not, forget churches and things like that. I mean, if you're getting them to move closer, they're now in a different house or apartment or whatever, so everything's already confusing to start with, because, they haven't got the same, okay, they might take the same furniture with them, but it's not in the same places because the rooms are different size or a different shape, and, the bathroom might be somewhere different. So, I mean, already you're putting in a lot of stress and anxiety and fear by the very idea of moving, I'd have said.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And then it's like trying to fight, because in America, the reason why I mentioned the church is because in America, a lot of people are very into their churches,
Right.
and it's a specific type of church. So it could be like Episcopal, it could
Mm.
be Baptist, it could be this, it could be that, and it has to be the right kind of church. It's not just any church. It's not like the village church in the Church of England.
Yeah.
It's like a specific church. Like I suppose if somebody's a Methodist, they would want to go to a Methodist church, or what are some of the others that people go to? Just, the, I've forgotten that one. Where people don't speak, they just sit. What's that
No,
church?
no idea. I'm not into church
Anyway,
history stuff.
it's yeah, but then every so often somebody will just say something profound. And it's I've forgotten what that is. It's on the tip of my tongue. It's going to irritate me now.
Mm.
But you're right. However, I believe it's important for us to try and find things where we can anchor people into it.
Mm.
So it's like, as you say, and it will take time, but it's about making sure that when they are in their house, that they then have a good time in it. There's a laugh in it. There's as you're making it a game, as you're putting things away, making it a good time instead of a chore, so that actually it's got a happy energy into it. And then yeah, and then obviously finding the right kind of, if it is a church or a little group, a sewing group or whatever, that they can do, or whatever they want to do. Could be chess club, it could be bowls, it could be whatever. Um, you know, it's just about getting them back into community and them, who they are as their person. Really difficult, don't mind saying. But I think, so what can we do to help them, to encourage it? And I think it's about trying to lift it all up as much as we can. So, and because a lot of people, let me just get this a minute. So they'll see that as overwhelm, the overwhelm of it all to do. And that can just, that's frightful. It's horrible. So it's about covering it up. Because that's what that's like, it's like kids' homework. Cover it up and then do it bit by bit by bit. So that literally and do the most important bits first, and then it just becomes less and less and less. But just, it's like, if people feel the mountain of everything they've got to do, then it really does feel insurmountable. And that's where they get so stumped. So yeah, I think that's where we can just make suggestions, make it light, cover it up, do it bit by bit, do the most important bits first, and then make it a game if you can. Like, put the music on while you're doing it, their favorite music, while you're unpacking, one box at a time. It's because if people are going around all grumpy because they've got to do this, they've got to do that, they've got to do that, everything's negative. Everything's negative. It's horrible. So I did, and actually, have you ever come across Peppa Pig?
Yeah, because Carl Smith uses it in his thing.
And there's Daddy Pig. All right. Well, my client, I don't know where I got it from, but anyway, we were talking about some cartoons, and I don't know where I come out with Daddy Pig from, but anyway, she goes, "Oh, I know Daddy Pig," and we all went. Anyway, the daughter took a video of me snorting like a pig, doing Daddy Pig snorts.
Well, so I'm used to seeing you like that after a few drinks, but yeah.
Yeah, it's like when I laugh. All right, so she did that, and I said, use that to your mum when you need to pattern interrupt. If she goes on a negative, Daddy Pig snorter. Oh, it made them laugh so much. And it was so sweet, it was so funny, because when her mum said goodbye to me, she gave me a big hug and she snorted in my ear. I said that was brilliant. So can you see how we got her back to a sense of humor?
Yeah.
And that was the pattern interrupt. And so important, because everything I said, everything she had a negative for. It was just like, and I just thought, oh my gosh, no wonder the daughter's like tearing her hair out, because it's just like, you feel, it's like, this is just horrible. So I just went every time she did it, and then she stopped. So I've told the daughter, you could do it. Seriously, I'll just stop her. And then it's like, because it's just like, you shouldn't need to go there. She was like worrying about ridiculous things that, as we know, but where to pattern interrupt. So you got to find your thing that you can pattern interrupt at, and then make it a new game, a new whatever, a new, it's like, because otherwise everybody's going down the negative rabbit holes and it all becomes shit. So we have to put the music on. We have to lift things up. And actually, because they're both really good at singing, that was another thing that they were to do, sing and sing to each other. So I'm sure other people can get more creative as well in other areas on doing that. Making sure that there's always something nice to do at the end of a section, whether it be, I don't know, just sitting down and calling somebody, or sitting down and having a cup of tea, sitting down, literally, well, we're going to do this for half an hour, and then we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that, just breaking it down. And then that's one way of helping a move, which invariably people will say, how do we do it? How? And it's hard. And then resentment can come in with other family members, because there's always one family member. Depends. Are you an only child?
No, I've got a brother.
Is he older or younger?
Slightly younger.
Yeah. So did you both organize stuff?
We did, but he seemed to have took over a lot of it.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it?
Mm.
Did you mind?
In some ways, I let him get on with it. But yeah, in some ways, it was a bit sort of, oh yeah, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing whatever, which was sort of a bit strange because when my father was alive and whatever. I mean, it would be difficult to motivate him to actually do anything unless he gets something out of it. You'd only ever see him if he wanted something.
Yeah. So again, it's like, can you see, it's so easy. We all go back to that child bit in transactional analysis.
Mm.
We just do.
Mm.
And it's like, child, instead of it necessarily being adult, because what would have been much nicer is if he'd said, what do you think, Gary? I'm thinking of this. What do you think? If you've got any opinion, if you've got an opinion, or what do you
Yeah,
think?
I mean, he did run things past me, and I mean, both him and my father's sister, we did go to the sort of funeral directors together, to choose things like the coffin and stuff like that. But I mean, they organised all sort of the hymns and the prayers and whatever. But then I wouldn't have known any of them anyway because I'm not religious whatsoever. But yeah, it was more of a case. Oh well, the grandchildren would like this, the grandchildren would like that, and I'm sure he would have liked this, and all this sort of stuff. So I just, yeah, some ways I'm not a great fan of funerals. In some ways, just get on with it. Yeah.
Yeah, so you were able to let it go, but no, but you can see how no matter what, resentments can build up between families very, 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 and quickly. So again, we have to come back to reminding people that, well, they're right and you're right, because from their model of the world, they're right, and from your model of the world, you're right, and everybody wants to be right, and they are right, and you're right. And so it has to go back to, I'm okay, you're okay, we're okay. Again, not always easy to put that forward. Not always easy at all to put that forward. Some people are willing to listen to it and let things go and accept that, yeah, I'm not in control of them. And, that's just the way they are. And so be it. But yeah, it can be very, very, very difficult with families. And so again, what can we do? And we can just kind of listen and tell me more. And again, just get the again, that says more about them than it does about you. That's them, doesn't mean that you have to take it on board, because they probably won't even care. And yet you're being, I tell my monkey story. Do you know my monkey story?
No, I don't think so. Well, I might
I
do.
will tell my monkey story. So monkeys live in the jungle and they go from tree to tree, so we can't catch them. So what we do is we bury a vase, we bury it in the sand or the soil, and we put in a shiny stone or some fruit, and then we go and hide in the bushes. Now, monkey has been watching you, and monkeys are very curious. So monkey climbs down off the tree, pops his little hand in, grabs hold of the shiny stone or the fruit, and he makes a fist, and he can't get out. You come over, pop the net over monkey. Monkey's trapped. Monkey's lost his happiness. Monkey's lost his freedom. If only he'd let it go. So do that now with your hands. Let it go. And that's why I've got thousands of clients doing that. So I got it from the chimp paradox, except I
Yeah,
added
I mean,
in.
I've heard the story. Yeah, but
Yeah, but I've added in and now shake your hand off.
right.
Because you've got to do that bit, because otherwise you just know the story. You're not
Yeah.
actually physically doing a somatic thing with your body. You've got to shake it off. And that's a really good, helpful way to help people. Just let it, just literally let it go. Because you are a magnificent tree and these are your branches, and a bird comes and lands in your branch, and a bird is the thought. Well, we all know what happens with birds and thoughts. You get another bird in this branch, and then they make nests, because you've got all these branches up here. So more birds, they make nests, then they have babies, and then they crap all over your tree. And it started with one thought. And say to you, they will have the thought, but you don't need to let it make a nest. Wave it away, flick it away. Because we all have thoughts. People are going to have the thought of resentment, of this, of like, why me? Why? Da, 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 da. Yeah, you will. Now shake it away. Because otherwise you're going to end up being crappy tree and the monkey. Yeah. So it's people quite like those stories. They find it very helpful. So that's another thing that you can share with people, of a way to let it go. Some just tell some stories, because people want to know, well, how do I let it go? Well, this is that will help you, and of course we've got other things like bilateral stimulation. There is havening, there is sort of like, there's ways of just somatically releasing it, and there's screaming. Go for a run and scream, go on to the top of a mountain somewhere and scream. That's why singing is so good, because you're exercising the vocal cords. Well, this, that you'd like that one.
Yeah.
Playing an instrument.
Yeah.
So for you, being so instrumental, it'd be like, when we've unpacked that box, then we get to sit down and play some tunes. When we've done this box, now we get to put that record on and listen to it. It's like, give yourself a reward, and you would give yourself an auditory reward all the time, which is really good. It's not so good if somebody's a gustatory person, because they'll end up rolling around the house. Have a cake every time. But yeah, so that would be a good thing for you. Again, coloring, make things nice. We'll do some coloring together. When we've done this, and when we've got, and it's like, oh, that's a nice thing to do inside my new home, getting an adult coloring book and coloring. And people do like to do that
in sort of recent years. I mean, it was something that was unheard of a few years back. Now it seems to be
stuff. There's lots of
I've seen some quite rude adult ones, which are quite funny, but
well, and that's perfect as well, because he's bringing in the humor. I love that. Actually, that's a really good, because sometimes people's filter goes when they've got dementia, and it's like, they go back to oh, look at her big tits, oh, look at that, oh, look at that big ass over there, I wouldn't mind doing, it's like people will just say. And so, an adult coloring book might be ideal for them.
I did see a spoof advert for one the other day that I thought was funny. It was a coloring book. It was a panda and polar bear coloring book.
But there you go.
Well, no, so it's only black and white, isn't it? There's no colours.
Well, they can add in a bit of blood here and there if they fight. If they
Yeah,
fight. Oh my goodness. Well, that's ridiculous.
yeah.
Um, yeah, anyway, that's what we can do. All right.
Hmm.
So I hope that helps for today. Another just
Hmm.
going over extra stuff. What can we do when there
Yeah.
are these situations? Okay.
Hmm.
So I'm going to stop the recording there.
Okay.
Um, and there we go. All right.